Okay, good evening everybody. I've been asked internally to chair this meeting, but I'm happy if anyone has any objections, if they want to put themselves forward.
Well done.
Okay, could I ask, because it's being filmed today, that we put all our mobile phones on silent, please? I think normally Craig takes the minutes. Craig's not here. I think the duty belt was said that he was quite happy to hand it over, so I've asked Ravi to do the minutes, if that's okay, unless someone from the Fans Forum wants to do it themselves.
I should just take the normal notes, that's all.
Okay.
Because I don't know Pitman and Greg, that's enough.
Okay, no, that's fine. Ravi, do you know everyone around the table so that you've got the attendance, or do you want them? You want to go around the room?
Go around the table. Yeah.
Can we just quickly go around the table then, stating our name and whatever. So I'm Mick Everett, Head of Matchday Ops.
Catherine, CEO.
Jack, Valley Gold.
Christine Laurie, Reminiscence Group.
Rich Pemberton, Supporters Trust.
John Perkins, Valley Away.
Tony Kahane, Chief Operations Officer.
Felicity Waller, Head of Commercial.
Marianne Smythe, Head of Ticketing.
David Joyce, Chief Financial Officer.
Sid Chesride, general nuisance, no. Charlton Athletics Rail Travel Group and partly bit of Valley Away as well, apart from my colleague.
Ian Wallace, Bromley Addicts.
Lisa Squires, Club Development Manager.
Darren Kent, General Manager for Hospitality and Catering.
Matthew Ring, West Sussex and Brighton Sports Club.
Vernon Roper, Valley Express.
And Ravi Patel.
Yeah, so Ray Patel, Hospitality Manager.
Okay, so we've got a few apologies for tonight. So Peter Catlin, Craig Parrott, Dave Wood, Jean Hewling and Keith Blair. Okay, item 2 then.
Can I just add another to that list? I had a phone call, John Bennett, please.
John Bennett, okay, thank you. Okay, item 2 then on the agenda, minutes of the last meeting. Is there anything, looking at it, that sticks out that anyone wants to raise? Sort of page 1, the remit of the Fans Forum, Forum Finances, Player of the Year.
No remarks?
No remarks.
No?
No. Don't they, Brett?
Well, 1 or 2 of those items are going to come up anyway on the
Exactly.
So things that aren't.
I think a lot of these are on the travels on here anyway. Valley Away, ticketing is that on here as well. Okay, so there's nothing that anyone wants to raise from the last set of minutes.
That's not elsewhere on the agenda.
Correct. Right, moving forward. Item 3, club communication.
Yes, that's a point that we raised all of you because I think everybody is aware of the current status of the meeting, why it's maybe more important than others because obviously of what's going on at the club. And as a club we feel there are some things we want to clarify, so we prepared the document for you to have a read about several issues which we think wherefore it's important that you read it and see the clarification for it. So I will hand it out now, okay? And a lot of the issues on there will also be coming back, so it's a point of discussion from the clarifications that we give. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. No, go
Shall I? Try and move forward. forward. Sure, can come back when I've had a chance to read it.
No, they will.
Okay.
Thank you. Pass them along, yeah.
Yeah, so could I ask that you have a look at that document now, please? And if anything in there you want to discuss, just go ahead, catch my eye.
Is it possible we could know through the chair the name of the head of communications to join, I gather, on Monday?
Yes, Mel Baroni. Mel
M-A-L?
Baroni.
M-E-L.
M-E-L?
M-E-L. B-A-R.
B-A-R-O-N-I.
O-N-I. Yeah,
Is that correct, sir?
that's correct.
Audited. Thank you. And I was correct with effect from Monday.
Yes.
Was she? It's a she, is it? Was she? What's her background?
It's in advertising and in sports branding as well. With one of the more, it's Saatchi and Saatchi who is important. And she plays football herself.
Ooh.
5-a-side.
Thank you for that.
She was at the game on Saturday.
But not on the pitch.
You didn't recognize her.
You didn't tell me a number, Chair.
Number 50, centre half.
The referee.
Yes, so if there's anything you see in there that you want a clarification on, just shout as and when you see it. Okay, shall I move forward, and if later on in the meeting there's something someone wants to raise on that?
Chair, on page 2, under the do you understand, paragraph 3, we are adding to our communications team to deliver better, etc., etc. Can we have an enlargement on that, please?
Well, it's for sure our head of comms, so who will be managing our head of comms team, and also as a senior management team internally, we're giving much more attention to the communication, or giving communication a priority in our SMT meetings. So I think every Monday we have S&T meetings amongst ourselves, and I think lately it has been quite a big important part of what we discuss is how we can communicate better with the fans and to the fans, recent events and also the strategy going forward.
We're also recruiting a marketing manager who will sit between commercial and communications.
Is that actually?
Yes.
Could we please call the sales stand the Jimmy Seed stand?
The what?
Jimmy Seed stand, that's what it is. It's not a sales stand, it's a Jimmy
Yes,
Seed stand.
that's not a problem. Okay.
So?
Sorry, can you enlarge on the marketing manager?
That process, the recruitment process is ongoing,
Ah,
so we don't have any details.
I know that word, Mr. Joyce.
With regards to the redevelopment plans for the Jimmy Seed stand, one of the things that's been reported has been that there are plans to include some residential development within the stand. Would you like to comment on that?
I'll comment on that because it's the we've looked at the South Stand. South Stand.
Jimmy Seed stand.
Apologies. Jimmy Seed Stand. I'll make sure I refer to Jimmy Seed Stand. Jimmy Seed Stand requires refurbishment, and with just initial provisional looking at the how that could happen, ways we would go about it. We're at no point know if it's going to include residential. We're looking at how it could enhance the stadium. But I stress it is at the provisional initial stages. Our focus from a redevelopment is on the training ground, and majority of our time, and all of our time, is spent on that development.
Well, as you can see, because today the story went up, we had the Premier League over yesterday. We spent the whole of the morning with them. Trying to include them as well. It's going to be one of the biggest projects of this club so far, or in the recent years at least, and it will require a lot of our time and attention.
So to come back to that question, there's a question I asked was whether there are the flats have been part of the discussions at the moment. Is that or
No, we haven't had any discussions about flats.
No discussions about flats in Jimmy Seed whatsoever.
We've had no discussions with anybody about flats. We've looked at provisional kind of design to how it could work.
What sort of capacity are you looking at for Jimmy Seed stand? I know you're only at a provisional stage.
If you're looking to enhance the overall stadium.
I think the concern of supporters is we've seen a strip of land over that side which was sold by a previous regime, and I think the concern is that if we were to get back on it, when we get back in the Premier League and things are going well again and we reach a point where we want to think about increasing the capacity of the stadium, which we were getting to that point in the previous occasion. We don't want to see the club making a short-term decision now, sticking up a block of flats or something which is going to mean when the time comes we can't increase the ground. That's what people's fear is. Not that we're worried about it being flats. What we're worried about is that the decision made mustn't affect the long term.
I think if anything, what we're trying to communicate to the fans is we all are about long-term planning, and the training ground development is also about that, and we will go the same way about the stadium.
Well,
obviously that's part of our strategy.
But that's why it's important that we ask these questions and you answer them, because
but
people yeah, exactly, that's why it's important that we're asking them, because people are getting all sorts of other ideas, and if you're saying that they're wrongly and they're worrying about things unnecessarily, then that's good that we get that.
If we looked at the I've seen and discussed with an internal team about there was some previous plans for the Jimmy C stand, and there was previous plans for the East stand, and the pictures and visuals I've seen of those included. I believe the planning permission, the previous planning permission that was given by Greenwich Council was for flats in the East End, and I've seen those drawings. We've got copies of those drawings.
Yeah, I think it was nine apartments.
9 apartments, and there's drawings. We've got drawings upstairs that shows apartments in the Jimmy Seat stand on the side, and I don't believe those they got fruit. Those got fruit planted. But so we're aware that of previous kind of ideas about how you could develop the stand, and when you look at kind of consider options, you look at other venues that potentially have ways of enhancing what you've already got.
Thank you.
Were those plans as part of this stadium, as part of the stands, or was it sort of complementary development to the east and south? The ones that you said you have drawings for?
I saw, the picture I saw was there was you had the south stand, it was on a Jimmy Seat stand on a double tier, and there was a building to the side of it, which was from what I could view was a combination of apartments and
up in Lansdowne Mews, or actually attached to the stand itself?
Lansdowne Mews.
Yeah. So that's a slightly different thing, isn't it? Because I think what we're hearing, and you've said you've not had those discussions yet, and I'm happy to accept that, but what we're hearing is that there are plans for residential accommodation within the Jimmy Seat stand replacement.
and if I could stress a complete accuracy, we've had some provisional looks at how we're looking at the through our long-term plans and with the club, and we understand that the Jimmy Seat stand needs to be developed, and we're looking at how could you develop it.
Yeah, and as you said, that hasn't to date included any residential accommodation.
The details, loads of things have been thrown on the table. We haven't taken this any further. It's just looking at ideas.
Okay. So those ideas have come up, but there's no firm plans at the moment?
There's no firm plans.
Okay.
How would the, how would the club accommodate away fans if that development did go ahead? Would they have to be relocated?
At this stage,
no. Okay.
Not clear. I mean, if anything you look in reference to Jimmy Seat stand, it obviously influences, and that's a very key point. How do you get the fans in? How do you get the fans out? And you need to understand that in any way that you change the stadium. The Jimmy Seat stand, any change there would influence how the east stand would work, would influence how the west stand would work.
Okay,
any other questions?
Okay, moving forward then. Item 4. I feel a SIP moment coming on. Organisation structure.
No, that's
No?
we already discussed that, or you had more questions about the organisational structure?
Yeah, there is one within the normal organisation structure, which is diagrammatic, for the want of a better word, not as listed on here with respect. It normally says who reports to who, and for example, the span of control of certain executives. That's what we have been asking for some time.
Well, we have a very flat structure, so all the people listed in here are part of the senior management team, and they have all teams reporting into them. So this is actually the executive senior management team of the club.
Go on, Sid, carry on. Sid.
I don't think with respect that quite answers the question. Can I ask a pointed one? If you don't wish to answer, obviously you will not answer. What is your personal span of control, or more important, what will it be from the 1st of February?
What do you mean by that?
Span of control is defined as the number of people reporting directly to you.
Well, obviously you have those people listed here. You have obviously head of HR, which is Lungi, and then you have obviously the footballing side that also reports into me as well.
So that's 5, 6, 7, is it?
It's a bit more than that, yeah. But we just listed here the people on this for this particular meeting, which I think are relevant for the topics that are discussed here in this forum.
Yes, but we're going to have to pass this, because I don't think with respect you want to answer the question.
No, it's very simple. All the senior managers of the club, the ones listed here, plus the footballing side, are all reporting directly into me.
So how many is that total?
Quite a few, yeah.
So therefore your span of control is quite a few.
Yes.
With respect doesn't answer the question.
Well, said it really, it's just a flat structure of management that reports in to the boss. That's it really, and then each of those individuals has their own staffing levels. So it's a very flat. I know what you're saying, how many exactly, but I just have to sit and work that out. But
No, I think it's around, it depends on at the training ground, things are a bit more different, but it will be around 10 in total.
I think I'll leave the matter, thank you.
Okay.
One of the things we've discussed around the organisation structure is making it more readily available on the website, in particular contact details, which I'm not sure is still there. I mean, one of the observations that's been made to me very recently was that Mick and John, from a stadium safety perspective, isn't readily available on there, for example.
But I think we discussed this matter before already. In the program, there's always the names of everybody who's responsible. Everybody knows our email address, including mine. It's very straightforward. So you know who's responsible for which department, and the way to contact the people has been in the past by sending them emails and going about that.
But I think not everybody buys the program, as I think we've acknowledged before. So is it possible to make that accurate on the website and very clear?
As far as I'm aware, it's most of the people responsible with the relevant departments' emails are available on the website.
Is there anyone particularly you're thinking that's not?
Well, no,
available?
it's just came to my attention very recently that who to contact for stadium safety questions.
I think you have Mick's email address, huh?
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
I think the point was
if you don't know
raised
the
that
name, you can't.
every program that used to be in there, it's disappeared, and some people say, well, I don't know who to contact about safety issues. I don't know. And funny that came up at a meeting earlier on today.
So stadium safety is the
Well, it's one example. But, you know,
okay.
We'll look at
Well,
that,
yeah.
but I thought everything was on the website.
Okay, any other questions on organisational structure? Okay, travel. Who's put the travel on the agenda?
I think, Chair, it might help if you take Valley Express and other matters first, and particularly in the absence of John Bennett, you leave Valley Away to the end.
Okay, so Valley Express then?
Yes, I'll put that on. There's a strong rumour that it's going to be abolished next season. Is that true?
No, we had this discussion last year, and the rumor was as well last year, and it still is existing today, so I don't understand.
So you have no plans?
No.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Is that it on Valley Express? Okay. You want the other one held in abeyance, did you say, Sid?
No, I'm quite happy, but does anybody want to speak other than me in the absence of
Mr. Bennett?
Bennett?
No? Nobody else does?
Right.
Can I just say something? I'm here representing Valley Away,
Oh, sorry.
and I was told by John Bennett, and also the gentleman that emailed me, whose name I can't remember because I don't know anybody's names. All I know is the guy's abroad, and he's missed this meeting. And I was told that I was the new Valley Away representative.
Okay.
I didn't know that Valley Away was on the agenda because I didn't actually get an agenda till today. John Bennett actually sent it to me.
I've got a feeling if that sort of decision was made, it's not made by Charlton, it's probably made by your fellow travellers.
No idea.
Because it's not, your name has not definitely been passed to me as it's a point of contact for any Valley Away queries.
I can't answer that, I don't know, because John Bennett's not here.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk to John when he's back, if he's well involved.
No, he's not there.
I'll ask John for you.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay. Sorry, Sid?
Yeah, I get to know quite a bit about Valley Away because, particularly for evening games, a lot of the people who normally travel on the train and are part of the group come by coach, particularly midweek because they want to get back, or they can't get back by train, etc. We've heard all that lot before. Concern was expressed to me that a lot of the shall we say, opinions and requests that were put forward in the questionnaire, or the 2 questionnaires, and I'm going back now to Ben Kensel, right, have not really been followed up. And 2 particular examples. They asked, and remember I'm at the ex-reserve team coach driver as well, and Keith Peacock was very strict on arrival times, right? It suits coach drivers, for reasons we won't go into, to get there as quick as they possibly can, because they then get a longer break. What was upsetting to various people is that, and this is very up to date, the coach at Hull arrived almost 2 hours before the kick-off, and the coach to was 1 hour, 1 hour and 3/4. I'm trying to think. One was Hull and the other one was the other away game. Yeah, Huddersfield.
And is that too early?
I was at Huddersfield, right? Now, it doesn't matter if it's a ground, and I won't bother to name one, that's reasonably central, right? What it does matter is for people to have, I say, not exactly dumped, but to arrive at a ground, quite contrary to what they put on the questionnaire, and Ben Kensel did have some agreement, 2 hours when the place is at least a mile from a pub, a restaurant or anything like that. That was not what was requested, and I have been asked to raise that. 2 examples, one 2 hours and one 1 hour and 3/4, give or take. I know the Huddersfield one's correct because I was at Huddersfield.
So we're discussing also this matter now within Target 20K. We discussed also away travel, and also there was raised the need to arrive a bit more in advance. And
what, a bit more than what, Chair?
No, an hour and a half in advance. And also to see whether it can be maybe closer to indeed a pub or something. This is one of the things that we are discussing currently in Target 20K.
It doesn't matter if there is a pub or a restaurant or something, or the ground is reasonably central. But Hull and Huddersfield, particularly being an evening game, are classic examples. So's Middlesbrough. It's miles from anywhere, freezing.
Yeah.
Can I actually speak on that? I've actually stewarded every away coach this season.
Right.
And I know for a fact that you're right, we do. We got to Hull, I think it was about an hour and 3/4 before kick-off. Now, I have actually spoken to China about travel times.
China, sorry.
Yeah, China's the lady that organises all the travel. And she tells me that she has to leave an hour for traffic problems, which I understand if you're travelling 250 miles. But I mean, I'll give you a prime example. We went to Milton Keynes, and all the times were the same as they were for Huddersfield, Hull, and all the rest of them. And we were 20 minutes late.
Right, so
all down to traffic.
Okay, so can I step in there as well, Steve, because I think this is something we've addressed before. We have to adhere to one TMO if we are told at what time coaches have to arrive. If they have to arrive at a specific time before the TMO kicks in, and if anyone doesn't understand the terminology, traffic management order. So if we are told we have to arrive at a certain time, we have to adhere to it. We try, a minimum is an hour. We don't allow an hour for traffic, normally it's about half an hour. We also allow for comfort breaks. If we arrive an hour and 3/4 early, I think that is good planning, because we are giving supporters enough time to meet up with friends, comfort break, buy whatever they need to buy, find their seat, buy a programme. We can't control traffic, and all it needs is an accident or something to happen on the motorway that's beyond our control, and I can guarantee the following day I hear we've arrived 20 minutes or half an hour early. My aim will always be, and we do talk to DJ coaches at every coach plan that we do, so we do take their advice about planning these times.
I think, sorry, Matt, I think, Mandy, you know, there's a legacy here of when we were in the Premiership and we were under much more strict police control, weren't we?
And when we go back,
like this gentleman said, I did away coaches then in those days, and we were always instructed to arrive between an hour and 2 hours in advance.
If you go to Chelsea, you have to be at Chelsea 2.5 hours before.
Yeah. So it's not unusual for that to, you know, I'd rather be there an hour and 3/4 early than half an hour late.
Yeah, I totally agree with them.
I mean, interestingly enough, on the last minutes, I think it's you, Ian, which I picked up. actually said, well, we only got to
Yeah.
20 minutes before kick-off. But,
I mean, I'm quite amazed that we've suddenly gone the other way. I mean, I rarely travel on coaches, and the last time I went, as I outlined in the last meeting, I just couldn't believe we left so late.
2 or 3 seasons ago, we missed kick-off
Travelling
several
up and down the motorways, you've got to be prepared for you can lose 2 hours just sitting doing
Exactly,
nothing.
but
So
this is why we try and at least build
Oh,
half
yeah.
an hour. On the longer trips, I try and allow a 45-minute comfort break, and that is obviously helping my smokers. We'll have to give it up, and also if I need to nip into that time because of traffic, I can say, listen, I can only give you half an hour. We need that 15 minutes for traffic. And I want my supporters there early. I say my very selfishly, but
I've got to be honest, it is a bit annoying sometimes that you're there before the ground opens. But on saying that, I've never heard anybody complain, certainly not this season.
I'm glad to hear it. Really, really glad.
Can I just make a final 20 seconds?
Yes,
Right?
of course.
The idea that Ben Kensall discussed, and this is going back 2 years, was, right, and I used to have to practice that with Keith Peacock and the reserve team, right? Yes, there was a 30-minute bugger racing factor, and that's what we used to call it, built in, you with me? But the request that was put to the coach club, this was slightly before the current people took over, right, is plan your journey, particularly on the 200-mile ones, okay? Have a look and see, and I had to do this myself, right? And I'm an ex-National Express driver as well. Plan your journey so that if there's no tailbacks or stop problems or things you don't expect to happen, find out where the last service station is just before the ground and stop there. Don't dump people at Middlesbrough right in the freezing cold. Same with Hull. But that, with respect, as far as I know, has not been applied. 2 hours is absolutely ridiculous. When you could stop in a service station for an extra half an hour, knowing that you've done 95% of the journey and the ground's only 8 miles up the road. Just called planning. That's the enemy case.
Okay.
On behalf of at least 3 people who travel on the coach when they don't go by train.
Thank you, Sid. Anything else on travel, anybody? Excellent. Moving forward then, item 6, match day experience, stadium issues.
I'd like to talk, if I may, about the match day programme. I'd like to start by congratulating those who put it together, Ollie and his team, for the fact that I believe that they won an award or runners-up in an award for the best programme, which is very creditable. But I have a concern. I hear rumours, there's lots of rumours flying around these days, I hear a rumour that you are planning to discontinue the programme and just hand out a team sheet. Is there any truth in that?
It's the rumours that we've been dealing with probably for a while now, and it's probably why we also deal with some paper handing out to try to rectify those kind of rumours. I think like you point out correctly, is the program has been probably increased in quality the last year, and everybody can see the efforts that Ollie and his team has made. And we're just looking for them to continue their efforts like this. And now with hopefully our new head of communications, it will be easier for them as well to allocate their time more efficiently to the program and to the rest of the communication that needs to happen from a club's perspective.
So there is no plan in your mind to...
It's like you said, it was a rumor.
Thank you.
Can I add a small bit to that? Because in 2017, the kind of controls around the web page changed away from the Football League. So we bring the web page back in-house under our control. So we're starting conversations now about how we go about that and planning it for the summer 2017. And when you're looking at the design for all of that, there was a conversation about how could you get the program. So a lot of clubs sell the program on match day, but then put the program on the web page afterwards, give access to it, and that was discussed as well. So
we're looking at also having the program in a digital version. It's all blending in with our digital strategy on the long term again. for the next coming years, because we will be forced to look at the digital strategy as well when we take the website back in-house.
Be benefit for international fans as well, because they want to see the programme. So going digital for them is a good
As well as the
communication tool for
physical
them.
programme.
Yeah.
Okay, that's answered my question. Thank you.
Any match day experience, stadium issues?
There's a hand dryers not working.
Excellent, moving forward then.
You have to put your hands close, that's why. That's all you have to do. Right as close as you can get them, and they work.
It's looking like a dream frame.
I'll get a sticker done.
Vernon says that's it.
Okay, item 7, the football side. Who included this? Nobody.
Well, I think what the fans want is not a collection of players on the pitch. We want a proper team. And it just seems to me we've just got a collection, the last couple of seasons, just a collection of players. And, you know, fans want to see a proper team. Extremely worried right from the beginning of the season about the centre-half position. Only 3 centre-halves, none of which had got any championship experience. They were all young, and they really needed help and guidance. And you know, if they'd got somebody with experience in to help and guide them, then you know they may well turn out to be very good players. But you know, they were just thrown in at the deep end, and you know, you could see very early on that we were struggling in that position, and you didn't seem to get anybody in before the loan period ended in November to help for over the Christmas period when we got suspensions and everything. And you know, you could see that it was going wrong sort of very early in the season, and it's not being addressed until now, and it's probably too late now.
Well, I mean, it would be wrong for us to think that it's too late, and I think it has been a combination of things, is that we had injuries in positions that where we were forced to play certain players in other positions, and I think we took on board the comment that some players didn't have enough experience, but then on Saturday our new signing did brilliantly, and he had no experience in the league, and sometimes it's difficult to understand why for certain players it works and for others it doesn't. But I think the most important thing is that we're focusing on that area. We still are focusing on that area. We signed Robert Johnson, we signed Texera, who did very well, and let's hope that it's in time to push forward.
Yeah, but to have 10 different combinations of centre halves up in a few months, no wonder the team can't settle. And I mean, hopefully Mr. Rieger will get it. You know, it seems to be much more idea of stability in the defence with him, but you know, it was very worrying early in the season.
I mean, there does seem to be, doesn't there, some question mark over the recruitment and how we deal with that. Was Texera, I can't pronounce his name, Texera?
Yes.
Was he someone identified by Rieger, or someone identified within the scouting network?
We already were aware of him for a while, and obviously Jose came in, and we know we identified that we are when you're losing 6-0 and 5-0. I mean, you know, you have to look at probably defense and defensive midfield, and we try to. I mean, it's more areas as well, but we try to address that. So Riga came in and he suggested a player, and we acted quite quickly.
Because one of the things that Richard Murray talked about in his interview a few weeks ago was that perhaps we've recruited too many players without championship experience, which has contributed to the number of injuries that we've had. It was very heartening to read the news about Valley Gold in the week, that was number 7 at the 92, something like that, in terms of the progression of young players to the first team. But then it could reasonably be observed that that's been necessary because of the sheer number of injuries that we've had. Perhaps, if we're just to believe that it is a result of the recruitment policy.
It's quite interesting that you say that, because I had an agent on the phone this week which was discussing that now in January players or the rules in Switzerland it was meant that they could only transfer one player or so. And so me and an agent were discussing, our life would be so much easier if we could only do one transfer, and that actually means what they allow the system in Switzerland to do is that then you have to recruit from your under-21s or your younger players so they get a chance. I guess...
Switzerland isn't very comparable to the championship, is it?
Yeah, but it's the principle that goes with it. We have said this, Valley Gold is very important for the fans and for the club. It's one of the things which is part of our strategy, is to put a focus on our academy players and bring them through to the first team. And we had probably the worst year ever of injuries, even the ones that are experienced and the ones without experience in the championship. We have Diarra out now with a fracture, which we're missing him very much. But it will always be part of our policy to include those academy players into the first team, because that's our edge over the other teams in London, and we will continue to do that.
But for the development, it's very important that they're alongside players that have the right level of experience to help those through. And Harry Leonard's a classic example of this, alongside Cicero, who's a different player, to being alongside Sarr. And that's fairly obvious, but I think...
But we had to play, obviously we're not going to discuss team tactics here, because that's not the forum.
Of course,
but we were forced, due to injuries, to play certain players not with the right experience next to each other, and that's unfortunately how football goes. It's unpredictable. Sometimes they say, or later when it rains it pours. Well, we had that due to injuries this season.
And as I said, Richard Murray has suggested that it's due to the recruitment policy that those players are getting injured. So I think... Sorry, Christine, speaking for you, but I'm just wondering if the question is more around, is there going to be a change of direction in how we look at player recruitment moving forward?
I think what Richard referred as how our recruitment policy should be, and he was quite correctly when he said it, is for Charlton to be successful, we should have the academy players, we should have experienced championship players, and we should have overseas talent. And this should be the mix which will give us a competitive team, and that's how we will go forward.
I think there's no purpose in making comments on what's already happened. That's already happened. But going forwards, I think I've read things that yourself and the owner acknowledge that mistakes have been made in the recruitment process, and clearly initially you were underestimating the standard of the division. But I think somebody as eminent as Arsene Wenger, who has been so successful for so long in this country, and he's made it quite clear on many occasions that when you bring foreign players into English football, you have to almost expect it to be the second year before they're fully integrated and are able to play. And the danger in what we've been doing, this last summer being a very good example, when we brought in, whether it was 6 or 7 new players, almost entirely from overseas. And I'm not suggesting that overseas footballers aren't as good as English footballers, because that would be ridiculous, but they're not necessarily used to playing Saturday, Tuesday.
I get your
and
point.
all the, plus apart from the fact of getting used to a different environment and different climates and all the other changes they have. And I think that's one of the things that we've gone wrong over in the last couple of years, and that's why I think most people feel if we could have some English players being signed alongside them, you're going to get a much bigger mix. And much better
I think I can assure you, I think going back to the season before this, we brought in also overseas players, being Johan, being Igor, being Johanny Buyens, all which never had experience in the championship, and they adapted quite well. Yeah. I think the difference, or what made, is that probably some of the players that we recruited didn't have a full season, and also going forward, we will really look at players that have played games, like seasons of 30 games. I mean, we recognize that it's important to see that a player can play at least 30 games in a season. I mean, that's the only thing that I can say. The overseas bit or not, I think that sometimes depends, but it's probably looking more through the medical history of a player and see if he's injury sensitive or not, doing better medical screening. I mean, we have now a new doctor on board who's helping us, who's a very big experience, who's now the medical doctor of the England national team, who's helping us out, and he has experience in ballet, he has experience in football, so he's helping us out with really addressing the issues that we have for the moment in that department.
So we need physically and mentally strong players.
Well, I mean, whenever we sign a player, we sign them with the idea that they will be physically and mentally strong, but sometimes, just like when you hire people as employees, you don't know what they are like until you start training with them, and that's no different with footballers.
It doesn't help also keep changing the coach or the manager, does it?
That's from the agenda.
Of course, yeah. I mean, and I think whenever we acknowledge that the stability starts with the manager. We always changed the manager when results were turning worse, apart from the first time probably Riga, but he had a short-term contract. But then whenever results, we changed the manager, and I hope I will say it again, every time we appointed a manager, we do it in good faith, and we think we can work with him for years, but unfortunately it hasn't been the case so far.
Does that indicate a weakness in the approach to recruiting them? Because I think, for example, with Fry, I think most of us had kind of expected him to fail, not because we wanted him to, but because he had absolutely no track record of managing a club at this level. And that's possibly true of Peters. It's almost possibly true of Luzon, because he didn't have that long at Liège either. So Riga's a slightly different ball kettle of fish, because he was obviously here before, but again only for a relatively short period of time. It's quite risky, isn't it, to recruit managers that have no experience of managing at this level.
Well, I mean, last time we appointed Riga, there was also a lot of criticism because he didn't have the experience at this level. And I get that experience in the championship is very important. Obviously, I can only stress that we have a team around the manager who has experience in the league, and that together with the knowledge and the expertise that Riga is bringing, we are sure that he can keep us up.
So hopefully we'll not be getting more cheap and compliant managers.
Excuse me?
Cheap and compliant managers. Ones from the network and ones that are compliant with the owner's strategy.
What's the owner's strategy according to you?
Well, what we've discussed with the players, ones from cheap ones from abroad, and
the strategy is not to import people from abroad.
Well, and young ones that are not quite ready for first team action.
I don't think that Riga, or I shouldn't say this, qualifies as a young manager. I think he's very experienced manager.
No, I'm not talking about Riga. I
But
said hopefully we won't get any more like the ones we just mentioned.
It is a relevant point, though, isn't it? Because when Power was dismissed, it was said by the club that was for reasons of disagreement over football strategy. So I think it's important when you've got a senior employee at a club, like the football manager or the head coach, that they have some degree of backbone and are able to stand up for what they see as right. Because they're ultimately, as you just said, if the results aren't right, they're accountable for the performance of the team, yet they don't seem to have the level of influence that we would have expected them to have in the recruitment.
Well, not really, because I just explained to you that Teixeira was signed based upon Jose's recommendation, and actually all the players we signed in the summer was in agreement with Guy Luzon. All of them. I can say that.
Yeah, but the point is about compliance, isn't it? I mean, if the person's compliant, they're going to say yes.
Okay, I think
it's an opinion.
Okay,
it's an opinion.
I think we've done the football side.
Can I just ask something about what's the setup for scouts in this country? Scouts in this country. Have we got a network of scouts in this country?
Of course, like every championship club, we have scouts up north in the Midlands and south who are scouting on our behalf for first team and for youth.
Not just on opponents,
no.
Upcoming opponents.
Every week I get a list of where the scouts are going to scout, which players they're going to scout in which game.
Okay, thank you.
One of our scouts was at the Huddersfield game. He sit next to me.
Oh really? Were you discussing which players to recruit?
Oh no, wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Discuss the coach arrival times, huh?
Yeah, I bet you did. Role of supporters. Who tabled this? Nobody?
Somebody must have put it
Well,
on.
it wasn't, well, one thing which is down in this sort of sub thing I'm reading off, the club's understanding of the reasons for the protests. I mean, you know, it's pretty serious stuff. What's the club's, you know, what is the take on it and how are you going to deal with it?
Well, I think
we recognise that the fans are disappointed, are frustrated. Elements of that are around the performance of the team, and elements are around others. We recognise we're second from bottom, and people are concerned, and then people are voicing that concern. Last week we had a couple of MPs who came in to share that because Charlton fans had shared their concerns with them. And those MPs were able to voice those thoughts with us. And all of those were around the change in the management, the performance of the team, the long-term strategy of the club, the perception of distance of the owner. And then the fans, and we recognise that the fans have the right to voice their disappointment, and we obviously see that on a match day after the game. I'd also stress that in voicing that frustration or disappointment that with the fans, there's also those individuals who venture into disorder, and that's different. We'd ask the fans, and we'd ask you to help us communicate to those individuals that disorder is can't happen and shouldn't happen, and doesn't need to happen. And in reference understanding, that's about creating quality and effective communication and an element of trust, so that the fans feel that they're being listened to and they can trust what we're saying, and at the same time that the club can work with people that can take forward our thoughts and what we're sharing with you in confidence.
Well, the group that I represent, 100% of them are dissatisfied with what's going on at the club at the moment. None of us demonstrate outside the West End after matches. It seems like the owner has alienated everybody in the club, be it managers, coaches, scouts, players, staff, fans. I mean, it seems to have alienated everybody. Is this really the way to run a football club?
I mean, to be honest, I think the owner is very well respected amongst the staff. He hasn't alienated any of our senior management, and we are in daily communications. I mean, one of the probably the things that fans approach the club for the moment is that we have a remote owner. I can only say to you that we are in daily contact, and he trusts our senior management team to run the club.
So much of the problem, and I said this to you the last meeting I attended, so much of it has been lack of communication, and things like the turnover of managers we've had in the years since we took over. Was it 5 or 6? I lost track of it now. I mean, people consider we've been made a laughing stock within football. People are just laughing. Every 6 months, Charlton's take another one, and some other guy you never heard of from Belgium turns up. And that's the sort of thing which is really winding people up. Yes, I think most people out of where we're at the moment are pleased to see Jose Riga back, because he seems a very reasonable guy and he did a damn good job in that short period he's here before. But you know, it would have been a lot better if he hadn't got in the first place. But it's things like that and this continual feeling that we're not looking beyond unknown people from Belgium. When we need a manager, we're just going to go back and pull another one out of the hat. And this is the sort of thing which is really winding people up.
Yes, I understand, but I can only say that whenever we appoint a manager, that we always do it whenever we the person who we appointed, that we always thought he was going to be good and take this club forward, and I can only say that.
So how close were we to appointing the Serbian fella? Whose name I'm not even going to attempt.
It's rumours, speculation, and
So there's no substance to it.
there is no point in trying to defend ourselves for something that is just a rumor. Yes.
Do British managers come into consideration?
Of course they come into
Yeah.
consideration. Yes.
I'm just glad Malky Mackay was dismissed.
Have you actually interviewed any British managers?
Yes,
Actually,
yeah,
have you actually had one in the office and sat down across the table and talked to him?
I've had interviews with British managers.
Okay.
If I can pick up the point that Christine made, and I hope this is helpful to the club, because this is, I think we're all around the table with one aim really, which is want to see it better with the Charlton Athletics. But the Supporters Trust recently ran a survey, which is particularly focused around people's reasons for participating in protests and general feelings at the moment. And 93% of the people that responded, and it's quite a large sample, there's nearly 800 people responded, including people who had walked up to the trust stall to fill it in, so not all online people. But 93% are either participating in protests now, or, and then the smaller percentage, 10%, are considering doing that. And actually only 2% are not protesting because they support the current ownership. What we found within this survey, because we also asked about season ticket renewals, and we've seen quite a swing from our November survey on this, and this is what I think we're slightly concerned about, that we found that only 30% have said of the existing season ticket holders that they're likely to renew. And most of the respondents have said that they're unhappy with the way in which the execution of the owner's strategy, assuming we understand that, is being carried out. So I think within this survey at least, there seems to be an imperative for some change of direction in some of this. Some of it is down to how the supporters feel they're treated, some of it is down to the way that the execution is delivering on the pitch. And this is why I think the question was asked about, does the club understand the reasons? Because if you can understand the reasons, then that's a big part of the way to sort of changing the way that things are done to try and address that. Because I think that would be catastrophic if that
I think you're right. I think to say it again, we know it's part of it is you on the pitch, but not all of it, and we understand that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be filming this. I think for the first time, Fans Forum has been filmed. We will put it online, and because we know there is a need for clear communication, and we are trying to do our best, whatever we can. We are doing this. Will be put on the website. Target 20K has met for the second time. We'll put in soon the strategic committee, and I hope people or fans will give it a fair chance, because we are really trying our best to improve a way which we communicate with fans and to the fans. Because the biggest of frustration is the engagement with the fans.
Good. Investment in the club, business
Just before you get on to that, if you don't mind, Mick, there was an interview you gave, I can't remember where it was, but you'll know,
Dublin.
where you described Charlton supporters as weird.
Okay.
I wasn't over happy about that when I read it.
Have you seen the interview?
No, I haven't. That's
Who
what I'm
has
asking.
seen the interview?
No, I've seen it.
Have I said Charlton fans are weird?
No, I think what you
I can read, because I thought you were going to ask this question.
Were you
Because
talking about me?
No, you're unpredictable in the questions that you raise here.
You're
No.
lovely, Sid, not weird.
Rubbish.
If I can just say, because a lot of people formed their opinion on something they haven't
Yeah.
seen, and I think there has been some genuine misinterpretation on what I said. So I said, I didn't say that fans are customers. I said I think the difference is also that fans don't see themselves as customers. And then I go on, and I didn't say that fans were weird. What I said was, if the fans, aren't satisfied with the product, they will go and scream to the people in charge of it. No, they don't, but they will do it with a football club. And isn't that weird? And that's very weird. And I said, that's very unique for football. I didn't talk about the fans. I said the fact that fans are so passionate by their club or by the brand. That's the weird thing about football. That's the unique thing about football. That was what I was trying to say. And so I've been quoted in the press, and I deliberately didn't say anything because I don't want to go into a cat fight and always try to justify what I said. But if you really go to the interview, it's not what I said. And we have a transcription, I can send it to everybody. It's not what I said. It's not
the video's out there for people to watch as well. I mean, I think what you actually said was that there was, and obviously you have it verbatim there, but you said they feel a sense of ownership, which is weird. And you then said, of course it's the stakeholders club. They only pay a third of income into the club, which I think is arguable anyway.
No.
And then went on to say it's the stakeholders club and so on. And I think it's that actually that's kind of being described as customers and compared to a cinema or a restaurant. I think is unfortunate.
No, I said the comparison and said I said you could compare it, but that's not the thing. The thing is that football is unique in that sense, and that's what I meant. And whoever watches the video, and I invite you to watch it, make up your mind when you see the video. But don't read lazy journalist comments that didn't do their homework.
No, I'd agree with that, and I have seen the video, and I have to say that my perception was that you were being a little critical of supporters, and that you were indeed describing them as being a bit unusual, or maybe the context was slightly different. But I think there's and I've said this to you before, but I think the words that you use are your responsibility, and that means that when you say certain things that are going to be received by Charlton supporters, that needs to be kept to the forefront of the mind. And I think in this case, the words that you used are unfortunate. Whether you intended it a different way, I think on this occasion the words at best are ambiguous. And I think actually.
Can I ask you a question, please, Richard?
Of course.
Is it not also the responsibility of the person who's going to make an accusation to actually make sure that they have got what they're saying 100% correct?
What?
Because our boss hasn't called supporters customers. No, please let me finish. She hasn't called supporters customers. She actually has said football supporters, in all the years I've been in football, are unique because they have such pride and passion about their club. And it's very true. I think we all do. If we purchase something, we don't. If we weren't satisfied with it, football supporters just take on a different persona than if they went to dinner and weren't satisfied with it. Football supporters are, and they're unique in a good way because they are so passionate. And I think if someone's going to make an accusation against someone about what you cause or what you don't, I think you need to get the information correct first. I believe my boss has been misquoted. She has been falsely accused, and even though you say you've seen it, but you're still saying she said this, but she hasn't.
I hasn't, and I'm not telling you and explaining the
I think it's wrong that I have to defend my boss in something that's quite
So Mandy, let me answer you in this way. I think that it is not the responsibility of the recipient to make sure that they have understood the communication accurately.
If I make
it is the responsibility of the communicator to make sure that what they're communicating is received clearly. That's all I will say.
Okay. If a person misinterpretates what someone says, I make sure if I go up to you and say, Richard, you said this, I'm going to make sure what I say is correct before I make that accusation.
No, quite right, but I have to say, I came out of watching that video with a similar impression to what's been expressed and elsewhere. I agree to some extent that social media does carry a certain degree of getting carried away with itself in all kinds of ways, and certain things stick which haven't necessarily been accurately interpreted. Well, of course, and we'll talk about that this afternoon as well. But
in the year I've been here, but in all my years of football, that lady there is probably one of the most passionate and convicted people I've ever worked for, and I've never met someone who is so open to sit down with supporters and just discuss absolutely everything.
Well, that's
And I
I'm
think
not
that's
I'm not here to question. I'm not here to question. I'm not here to question that, Mandy. All I'm saying is that lots of people have seen the video and lots of people have formed similar opinions. That's all I'm saying.
Well, in
So
the
I
room,
know
only
that
you
the
have seen the
context-
video.
In the room, I've seen the video.
Yeah, sorry, people, let's draw a line over that. Mandy, the increase in salaries in the internal.
Can I just say something? We might not be shareholders, but a lot of us were shareholders, and we lost our shares. And we've been VIP members, 10-year season ticket holders, 5-year season ticket holders, Valley Gold since it started. And I think we've got a right to complain. We might not be owners of the club at the moment, but I mean, I know Richard Murray lost 19 million or something, but we all lost some shares as well, nothing like that, of course. But surely we've got a right to voice our opinions.
But that's why we're here
Yes,
today,
well,
that's why we accommodate the demonstration, so to speak. Have I ever let anybody not voice their opinion? You're here today, we're doing it on camera. I cannot be more transparent than this.
Right.
It's all about success on the pitch.
Yeah, well, most of it, not all of it.
No, and we don't believe it's all about success. A large majority is about success on the pitch. We recognise there's a lot of solutions for good communication.
Can we just move on now, please? Investment in the club, business strategy. Who's tabled this? Anyone want to raise anything under this? Moving on. CACT Men's Health Programme.
Oh, sorry, did nobody else put the, I didn't put that RD strategy on, but
Somebody must have done.
There were originally 15 items. Some disappeared.
If you have a question, ask.
well, I mean, all these cost-cutting measures really don't make any sense at the moment. While we're hurtling towards League One, and you're cutting the ticket office, Bartram's, carving up the stadium, and just trying to break even. But I mean, what is the point of all this cost cutting if we're going to lose 5, 6, 7 million or whatever it is by getting relegated?
I think Mandy wants
Ticket
to.
office obviously is my baby, and I can assure you I've had no reduction in staff. I have no reduction in facilities. I can do absolutely everything that I do downstairs that I can do upstairs. I've moved my team upstairs so that I can work with my colleagues. So it's just more of an open plan. We've got an open forum. If we need to discuss something, I just shiv in the chair over to sit next to Fizz and go, right, can we do this, that
And we
the other?
invested £360,000 into a new ticketing system, which isn't cost cutting, it's a huge investment
And
up
it's one of
front.
the best going. Our access system is second to none, and it can only go on improving the facilities that we're going to be giving to supporters. I'm there on a match day. All the windows are open. I've still got my north, so I've had absolutely no reduction. All I have is a smaller space, but that doesn't stop me from doing the job that I've done when I had a bigger space. There really is no difference.
Well, I mean,
I promise you that, because there is no difference to me at all.
Can I, sorry?
You go first, and then I'll just take a broader
Yeah.
view on investment.
In reference to the box office, the closing box office, and opening up an NHS call centre under the trust, and in reference to misinformation, loads of information was raised, and it was incorrect, and it put a real negative feel to fans. And in reference, someone mentioned about the social media and how that multiplied through social media on the negativity. Something that is very positive in reference men's health. Through the trust, I'm not pointing you, just
That's just the job I do.
but men's health, what the trust, and this isn't us trying to hide behind the trust, what the trusts are delivering at this call centre through men's health, it's so important, and it can have such a positive effect. Now, I personally have been on their programme, and I've recognised the benefits it can have. And it was something that was going to that could have an influence on supporters on a match day, and it has a service that it provides on a match day, and it will have, put football to a side, it will have a positive effect on people's lives. And that was spun into a negative message, a negative strategy, and the club were trying to do something negative.
I think the challenge though, Tony, was more around the reduction of one of the channels of sale for the tickets, wasn't it? And whether that was beneficial to the club.
What reduction?
There wasn't
The ticket office window.
But 2 days a week.
But
I'm there,
Sorry, go
we're
on.
there 24/7 with the online site, and the ticket office is there other days of the week and on a non-match day and all-day match day before and after the match. Now, because of the improvements that we've made on the ticketing side, my physical walk-up has decreased. So if I can use my team to better effect, then that's what I'm going to do. Again, I haven't cost cut, I haven't reduced my staff, but we just use them to better effect. My team are a very effective team. So if I've got other things that they could do, then I'm going to be doing it. But we are still there.
There's a number of people who walk up on a non-match day is very few.
we are at
Very
full.
few at the moment.
You get my point.
We are, when you refer to communication, I mean this is a good example, and we have to look at ourselves and where did I go wrong with the communication? Because the investment in the ticketing system and the database was to drive the database for us to collate data for fans, because we didn't have enough. We don't have enough fans, and I'm not talking about attending the match at the moment. We don't have enough fans. We need to grow that pool of fans, and it was a really very positive plan, an investment, and that message didn't go across. And we should take that and say, well, why didn't that message go across? Because we made a mistake in not getting that message across, because something that is positive, a real long-term investment for the club, didn't get across to the fans, and has come out and ended up being a negative. And in time, that investment will have an enormous positivity around Charlton in 10, 15, 20 years' time. Because we do have a challenge in reference to the younger fans coming through, and growing that database for the future. And when with a real focus at the moment about getting behind the team, being energy givers, and giving them and supporting their confidence, and the fans did brilliant on at the weekend inside the stadium, getting behind the team, and that's from the club a real key focus in the short term, because we've got to get that right, and then we've got to immediately get onto communication, and we recognise that. Because that's an example of something that's really positive that's ended up being negative. And partly because of communication, but partly because individuals chose to spin it into a negative message.
David, did you want to elaborate? You said earlier.
Well, just in terms of the owner's commitment, in a wider sense, financial commitment, it's £25 million is put in 2 years.
Could you break that down a little bit?
It's £1 million a month. Yeah, well, I can give you a handout. I've actually got one here, so I'll hand that out. I mean, it's just under £9 million in terms of players. In terms of infrastructure here at the training grounds, £4 million. Repaying the Lombard debt, which was a weight around our neck, that's £5 million. That's fully gone now, and the rest is to fund the operational losses. And that's hefty as a championship club. I think in terms of the last set of available financial results for all championship clubs, average losses in the championship are £10 million. It's a very expensive business to be in, and £25 million on top of the purchase price. It's a lot of money. It's an awful lot of money.
But it is an investment, David, isn't it? Because it's actually, if I understand it rightly, it's loaded onto the club as debt to Staples, which is interest bearing, albeit of relatively modest interest.
It's an investment into the club, absolutely. Yeah. But to fund operating losses, those level of operating losses, as well as improving the stadium, improving the stadium experience for fans, it's a big financial commitment. I haven't even talked about the training ground development as well.
That's right, but again, that's 12 million presumably that will be loaned to the club as an investment for the owner. But the reason that's important is because we haven't touched on the Peter Varney stuff yet, but or probably won't do. But just to pick that up for a moment, the possibility of a future owner at some point down the line, however long term Mr. Chatelet's here, the more debt that the club has, the more difficult it is clearly to offload that, and more to the point, it does create a question about the exit strategy for the owner. I mean, he's talked about retiring at 75. I don't know how serious is about that, but let's assume that he does that. What happens to the club? Because we look at Bolton, for example, and the fact that they've had friendly debt that's gone into 175 million, and if we're losing 6-7 million a season, which will be probably even more in League One if we were to suffer relegation, you could see that ramping up and up and up, and it's great while it's friendly, but as soon as it isn't, it creates a problem, doesn't it?
Well, but I don't think any owner is going to expect £170 million worth to be the purchase price for a championship club. So when it goes in, whether it's equity, whether it's debt, it's quasi-equity, because it's, you know, unless you're going to get to the Premier League, and let's hope we do, then the chances of that ever getting repaid are virtually zero. So it's as good as equity, if, you know, in terms of talking about technicalities of debt and equity.
And that's probably why we stress so much that we want to go to a break-even model, and that doesn't mean cost-cutting. That means proper investment in ticketing system and various things in the academy building for us to grow a break-even model. We're not there yet, but we don't want to have a club which has debts in the same order as Bolton, and that's what we're trying to communicate to the people. It's not that there is a lack of investment. I think 25 million in less than 2 years is mind-blowing. And we as a senior management team have to see how we can get to this club, to that kind of model, which is the best strategy that you can have for a club.
But that is very difficult, and that is very challenging in the Championship, where you have, you know, 9 clubs on parachute payments. You have other owners who are just, you know, taking massive risks. It is, we absolutely accept it's a big challenge, and it's not easy. But it is a more sustainable model that we're driving towards.
It is, but there's that balance, isn't it, between sustainability and competitiveness, because, as you rightly point out, the Championship clubs generally are taking big losses. And in fact, you know, it's very rare for a Championship club to break even. You know, you look at that and you say, right, so our strategy is break even. How do we remain competitive within that? And I think it's that bit of the execution of that vision is great. Yeah. But the execution of that is one that's still open to question.
Can I comment on
well,
that?
It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's a real challenge.
That's what I think the fans are struggling to understand.
But last year we finished 12th with a budget which was the 4th lowest in the league.
But the perception to the fans is that the owner is running down the club on and off the pitch, with the exception of the academy, of course, which is, you know, is spending millions on that. But the rest of it, the perception to the fans is the club's being run down, and we're seeing the disintegration of the club.
Do other? I mean,
I don't think that's quite fair. Two of us don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that.
And I don't think the figures support that either. I mean, in terms of, just in terms of my time at the club, infrastructure, so put players to one side, in terms of infrastructure, 10 times more investment in the valley and the training grounds in the last 2 years than the previous ownership. 10 times. That's not running the club down, is it?
No, it's just a perception to the fans.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Now, could I ask, does this investment have any financial fair play implications?
Which investment?
No.
In the training grounds?
The investment that you've just spoken
The
about.
financial fair play result is different. You deduct the capex investments of it.
So this is.
But
there's no negative
That's good
ramifications.
But it's all coming back to communication again, isn't it? You see, the fact that Christine is saying that her and many of her fans group are walking around under the impression that the owner is running the club into the ground, where what you're saying and what David is saying is quite the opposite. That he's, no, I'm just trying to say, but But, you know,
Back to communication.
you've got to be communicating it better because the message isn't getting out there.
But
is it?
then,
That's fair enough.
That's
That's fair
fair.
enough. We, you know, our aim is to
Yeah.
talk
but
more
then
about
I
this.
also ask to you guys, we're gonna get this message
Sure.
out there, because it's the truth, we're not hiding anything, and we will put it, we will say it 10,000 times if
It's
we
been
have to
said.
repeat it. It has been said, and people should believe us. It's
Mr. Baroni's got a big job on him, I think.
But what the fans
Was it a woman? Or Mel could be a man, I didn't know.
what
You
the
weren't
fans,
listening.
what
Well, I
the
just said
fans
Mel,
do
really.
is they
Let's have
look at
one
the
meeting
league
at a time,
table.
please, yeah.
That's what the fans do. They look at the league table and they see, oh, it's going to be Rochdale next year.
Been there.
We're not there yet.
They do, and it's,
None,
it's
But that's,
none of us want to be in
that's
League One
what the
next year.
fans are looking at, though.
We all want to be in the Championship.
Yeah, of course, so do the fans.
to pick up Christine's point though about running the club down. I think it's clearly seen in the playing side, you know, and to be fair, so for example, the message we've given is that there's been a 9 million investment, but of course that's offset by the players that have left. And I think it's perfectly reasonable. To an extent. I mean, you haven't just let everyone go for nothing,
I
have you?
think there is a
No,
difference.
the players that have gone offset
That's-
that 8 million operating loss.
No, hang on a sec. Let's do a transfer. You said you've outlaid just under 9 million in transfers, but you've also
Correct.
received funds for players. That wasn't
Correct.
a net figure, was it? That was a gross figure. So you've also received funds in.
Yeah,
You've
which off so that 8.3 million, yeah, that's cash operating losses. That would be higher if we hadn't sold something like Joe Gomez.
So that's net.
Yeah.
Because at the fans meeting it was said that was gross. Yeah, that's on the video.
The 9 million is what we've outlaid in terms of.
Incoming transfers. He wants to know
Yes,
what
I'm
the
saying that's a
outgoing-
revenue figure, isn't it? It's not
Yeah.
a net. It's not a margin.
What we
figure.
sold, what we
You've,
bought.
you've not
what's the
lost.
difference?
I-
So that's our gross
Result.
investment in players, and then the income on player trading offsets the 8. So that 8 million is a net figure.
So you've outlaid.
So it would be higher if we hadn't sold those players.
Sorry,
Well,
we
I'm not
spent,
sure that's
we
what
spent
was said at the
9
last
million on
meeting.
players and we've got $1 million in on players we've sold. Making
No.
that. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Well,
what
we were
I'm
saying you
saying-
spent 20 million, we've got 10 million in.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we
Well, you-
lost.
you-
No.
So that picks up the point as well, is that therefore the players that we've brought in don't seem to be a huge improvement given where we are. We talk about last season we had the 4th lowest playing budget. I believe the season before we had the 3rd lowest playing budget. We're told that it was a 40% increase, but that brings it back up to about the 5th or 6th bottom. You know, when you budget third bottom, for third bottom, 4th bottom levels, that's where you expect your team to end up unless you're going to overachieve. And I think this is the point that Christine's making, is that this is the perception the fans have, because I think, you know, and to be fair, you know, a part of this is that we have a half-billionaire owner, clearly has a fair amount of wealth behind him, and we're not seeing that turning into.
But, so
I think that's a
on the
very
pitch.
unfair comment to be
No, I'm
honest.
not saying it's a fair. I'm not making that. I'm not saying it's a fair comment. That's what I'm saying. To be fair, it's offset by that view. I'm not saying it's a fair view.
So Rich, therefore, then your losses are, instead of them being 4 million, which they were last year, which is still a big number, they are 10 million. So do you want your club to be operating at that sort of level of unsustainable loss?
That's a good question.
Because
It somewhat depends, doesn't it, on the level of competitiveness on the field, I think.
it's a fine, I know it's a
I
very...
know it's never fair
It's
when
a very fine
fans
balance.
demand owners to spend money. It's never fair. I get that. I
I
totally
don't
get
think
that.
we're asking to, you know, be in the Premiership or anything. We just want some sort of stability with the managers and the team. And
Okay, and that's a different question to, you know, what's our wage?
Okay, Sid.
Can I ask my...
Can I just ask Kristen, you said carving up the stadium.
Okay.
Sorry, Sid. What do you mean by carving up the stadium?
well, I mean, Bartram's is shut and ticket office shut, and rumours about this Jimmy seat stand and all things like that.
But we just addressed
we
it.
Yes, I know that. Tony just asked me that
The
question.
room, say the Bartrams. I mean, we've discussed that. People were coming in. The Jimmy seat stand. That's all come out of because I visited another football club, and that's come out of the back of that. We've discussed the
Ticket office.
ticket office.
Moving on, Sid, sorry.
Yeah, I've got a very easy learning question from my learned colleague to my right. We've had a bit of discussion on supporters and money and communication and investment, right? Very roughly, taking the last complete financial year, how much of the total income, as a percentage will do, comes from supporters' income, i.e. season tickets, gates and that sort of thing? Not to the 7 pies and a pint, which is excessive.
So you're just talking ticket income?
Yeah.
Roughly a third.
Supporters' income.
Roughly a third.
Thank you. That's all.
Excellent, moving on. Training ground, Memorial Garden.
That's mine. We're in reference to the training ground redevelopment. We've finished phase 1 at the end of February. For phase 2, it requires that we need to temporarily move the Memorial Garden. Jean's not here tonight.
I'm seeing her on Saturday. I can talk to her about it then.
Yeah, and so just like to speak with Jean, get together with Jean, we're going to work with Hadlow College and Jean to temporarily relocate it, and then we've got some options on where we put it in the later phases of the.
Shall I ask Jean to contact you next week?
Yeah, please.
Excellent, thanks Tony. Okay, fans forum matters.
Okay, last 2 fans forum meetings we've talked about the player of the year dinner at the end of the season. 2 meetings ago you said you were not happy with the way it had been and you had plans to introduce something else. When we had the last meeting you said you hadn't given any thought to something else since you first mentioned it, and we're now at a point, bearing in mind we're at the end of January, that we've got to either go with the player of the year dinner or not. So I need to know what's happening as far as your plans are concerned, please.
Yes, we had an internal discussion as well with FIS about it, and we think it should be a joint kind of thing, probably with the fans together with our community trust, because they are quite helpful in that respect, and for them it will be also a fundraising opportunity together, with drawing upon the good relationships that they have. We think it can be a successful event, and I think FIS would like to take up this matter together with you and the trust to see how we can organize that event. The only thing that I would just say from a perspective from the footballing side, there appears still to be a preference that it should be held on the Saturday.
A preference by whom?
Yeah.
Not by the fans?
On the football side?
On the football side.
What you mean the players?
So, but take this matter matter offline together with FIS and the community trust.
Well, 5 years ago, the fans forum, very few people in this room were here then. Vernon was perhaps one. I can't think of anybody else really. No, Sid. We were asked, the fans forum were asked to take over running the dinner, which had previously been run by the supporters club, as a supporters club as such ceased to exist, and we've run it for 5 years. What you're envisaging is something quite different, because you're talking about something on the Saturday.
Potentially, yeah.
It may or may not be. I mean, we want to talk to you, and we want to include the trust in those discussions as well.
Well, when you say talk to me, you mean talk to the fans forum?
Fans forum.
I personally won't be interested in doing anything on the Saturday.
No.
That's just a personal thing. So I think you need to work out who is going to be the person who's going to be organising this thing. I have no interest in that.
What, from the fans forum perspective,
well,
you mean?
From whoever's going to organise it. The fans forum have organised it.
Yeah.
Jean and I have done.
But you're saying that you don't want anything to do with it. It's on a Saturday, yeah?
No.
I think Ian Slane is also talking on behalf of a lot of us that have been there.
That's what I'm asking the question.
I'm talking on behalf of me.
Sunday,
I'm talking on behalf of me.
And me.
Other people here may wish to take it up. I've done it with Jean for 5 years. If you were going to carry on with the same thing on a Sunday, then yeah, I'd probably be happy to carry on with it. But you know, you're very welcome to change it however you wish. But I personally don't think I want to know anything on the Saturday. I don't see how that can work in practical terms. and it doesn't appeal to me in the slightest. But that's just a personal view. But I would say the people who come on the Sunday, I haven't found one single person who wants to do something on the Saturday. So I think you're going to run into, well, I'm not saying there's always somebody who will do it, but first of all, you're going to have to find somebody to organise it.
But that, like I said, it's a suggestion,
Yeah.
and the only thing is take it offline and discuss it together.
Okay.
When and with who?
Well, I said with Felicity, together with the community trust.
With who?
Matt Parrish from the Community Trust.
I would suggest that's not a wide enough scope.
From our
Well,
side.
Well,
So-
we'll certainly
no.
we'll certainly look for input from fans, of course. But if you're not interested in doing anything on the Saturday, then it would be good to understand those reasons why and talk about the format and how what aspects of that won't work. But whether right now in this moment is the best way to do that, or whether it would be worth putting together a meeting to get your input specifically on that matter.
The answer's probably tradition.
Yeah,
People are resistant to change.
You're taking something, this was an event run by the fans for the fans. Yes, of course, it could only work if the players came and the manager, but going back over 30 or 40 years, it has been traditional that on the Sunday after the last game, the manager would come and the majority of the players would be there, and it would be a sort of semi-formal occasion. The same format has been followed all that time, but it wasn't the club organising it, it was the fans who organised it. What you're now suggesting is it becomes a combination of the fans and the community trust organising it, which is quite a different thing, isn't it?
One of the major influences in suggesting the Saturday as an idea is that more fans might be able to get access to it.
I think-
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's much less likely to appeal to fans. I mean, nobody wants to come to a football match dressed in a manner to go to a dinner afterwards. And from people like myself, I mean, I'm coming up from West Sussex, so I'm going to do the Valley Express on a Saturday. I can come up to Sunday for Player of the Year. I can't do them both on the same day, and I don't want to come up to Player of the Year. I don't want to come up to the game dressed for Player of the Year.
What am I supposed to do,
I don't
drive home and
understand.
pick my girlfriend up and then come back again?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, these are all the kind of input that we need in order to make a final decision.
Well, with respect, we gave this input two meetings ago.
But now we need to tie down the final details and actually, as
Quickly.
you say, it's
Yeah,
January.
could I respectfully ask Ian, if you've got the time, could you liaise with Fizz and whoever else is involved in this, and come try and resolve it that way?
If you wish.
I'll certainly join in as well, particularly if it could be arranged
Well, I knew you
before
would,
or after
Sid.
a football game.
Yeah.
When we're here, that's all.
Yeah, well,
And lots of people come from a long distance, including me.
we'll do it after an away game, so that'd probably be better, wouldn't it?
No, the coach will go.
At 11 o'clock.
Any other fans
And if you look
forum?
down the time as well.
Any other fans forum matters? Okay. Okay, so we're AOP.
For me.
Can you enlighten us on the Mutavani offer, somebody offering to invest in the club?
Yes, I mean, we outlined it as well in the communication. Like any other championship club, we get approached by takeover proposals all the time, but the club is not for sale.
Well, you can see why the fans are angry. That it's rumoured that they were willing to invest quite a bit of money in the club, and sort of the way things are going at the moment, you can see why the fans are angry. That you wouldn't even
I
speak
think
to
we
them.
just established that the investment in the club the past years, £25 million, has never been bigger, and we feel we're investing in the right kind of things, and the club basically is not for sale.
Does that mean that every investor gets treated the same way that Mr. Varney was treated?
To come to the Varney stuff is if you read the emails that he so kindly published, which were actually private and confidential and should have actually, with our permission, been published to just clarify this. when he sent us an email, it specifically said, I would like to discuss with you an investment proposal. Specifically, if we're going into the semantics and if my words are being treated like in Dublin, we can do the same way. So in the communication, it was never clear what his investment proposal was. It was only when it was published in the Sun magazine of the club.
I read it on the website.
Exactly. When the emails were published and he gave context to the emails that he had a proposal to take over the club. It wasn't clear at that point in time that was it. And all of this to say is that we get approached by people all the time, and there's no matter in meeting with people if the club is not for sale.
But at that, you just said that you weren't aware what the investment proposal was. So to dismiss it as something you're not willing to entertain seems a little bit odd. I mean, wouldn't it have been wise just to find out?
But we initially set up meetings, but due to his unavailability and my unavailability, we postponed, and then there were emails that he wasn't happy with the way things were going, and then we just hold off.
Anyway, it's your ALD now. Anything? No. Thank you.
The only thing I will ask is, why doesn't, bearing in mind the state of the club at the moment, why doesn't the owner come and watch a game?
Because he watches all the games. He watches all the games.
I understand that. It says on there that he watches all games wherever he is in the world. But he also knows, I'm sure, that the fans are not happy.
He's very much aware of
So
that.
why doesn't he make an appearance?
Because that's the way he's very limited in time, and I've explained it before, is that most of
But he's investing a lot of money.
But that it's not because you're not, the whole point is that the fans feel he's emotionally disconnected from the club. And I said it to fans on Saturday, when we were losing 6-0 at home, I probably had 20-30 phone calls from him. That's not somebody, because he's not physically at the game seeing us lose 6-0, that's not somebody who's not concerned about the club.
It is part of the communications picture, though, I think, isn't it? It provides a perception of a detachment which you say isn't there. I mean, if you just came for one game a season, it would make a difference.
But he came last season to go into the season. For the moment, his agenda whenever he visited the club this year, it hasn't fallen with a home game mostly on a Tuesday, because he's mostly here over during the week, not in the weekends. So whenever his next visit will be, if it happens to be during a Tuesday game, we'll accommodate it like we've always done in the past.
I have no issue with that, but I suspect that fans would see that, would associate the lack of presence and the lack of willingness to make time for one of those particular games as equating to a detachment.
I think there's probably other examples of football clubs where the owner doesn't.
But then we're not interested in
We're not, exactly.
No, but
it's not relevant. We're
it's-
interested in Charlton.
I understand that, but to sort of, Ron doesn't come to a game, he's unique in that fact. He's not unique in that fact as an owner of a football club.
Well, I think Charlton's a unique football club.
So
No, very weird football club.
Tony? Please.
No.
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 No, thank you.
No. Thank you very much, everybody. Meeting is closed.